No.
All right, we call the Mental Health Recovery Services Board meeting to order. And we will now have our roll call, even as Senna comes in. Right on time.
Barely.
Reverend Gordon,
Here.
Mr. Arnold,
Here.
Ms. Banks, Ms. Bell. Here. Mr. Brown,
Here.
Ms. Carter, Ms. Clark, Ms. Friedman,
Here.
Ms. Harding, Ms. Howe. Here. Ms. Mendoza-Locke. Here. Mr. Knowles,
Here.
Mr. O'Connor,
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Stengel,
Here.
Major White. Here. Ms. White.
All right, thank you very much. Now we'll have the recognition of our visitors, beginning with Richard.
Richard Arnold. Michael Carter, board staff.
Carol Conlon, Lucas County Guardianship Services Board.
Bettina Langston.
The board staff.
Faith Kelleher, board staff. Shannon Finch, board staff.
Casey Smith, Ascend Innovations.
Josh Gratch, Ascend Innovations.
All right, thank you so much. The
Oh, and you
determination.
have these over here.
Oh.
We're not important. Phil Stone, board staff. Robert Kavanaugh. Elijah Jones, board staff.
Now that you know who you are, we'll continue. We'll have the determination of items to be removed from the consent agenda, beginning with the meeting minutes from August the 15th. Treasurer's report, May, June of fiscal year 23. Calendar year 2024 Lucas County budget approval. Ohio Moss access to wellness funds allocation. The Ohio Moss System of Care Funds Allocation, task of Northwest Ohio.
Please remove that D,
All right.
6D.
The Ohio Moss Addiction Treatment Program Funds Allocation, and the Ohio Moss Hospital Access Funds Allocation, and the Health Officer Designation, and the City of Toledo ARPA allocation.
And the,
Also need to remove from the consent agenda with your approval, the approval of a resolution of necessity. Is there anything else that should be? And we want to look at leaving on the consent agenda the approval of the Mental Health Recovery Services Board campaign contributions. Anything else that needs to be removed? All right. Let us now.
so moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Ms. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Friedman,
Yes.
Ms. Howe. Yes. Ms. Mendoza-Locke,
Yes.
Mr. Knowles,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stengel,
Yes.
Major White.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Amy, Ohio Moss, number D, Ohio Moss System of Care Funds Allocation.
Yes, thank you. I'm on page 22 in the packet following along, the task of Northwest Ohio DUIS Aftercare Funds. So our board was allocated $141,704 of funding from Ohio Moss for the System of Care funds, which we use to that we use for Task of Northwest Ohio to provide aftercare services for youth returning from Department of Youth Services facilities throughout Ohio. So the programming is for youth committed to DYS, who are returning back to Lucas County. And over the years, the youth get sent there through juvenile court, and over the years, juvenile court has made a lot of effort in trying to reduce the number of youth sent to DYS facilities. But nonetheless, the youth and the families who are there are traditionally youth who have multi-system, very high needs. So there still is significant work for the case managers to do while working with the youth and their families. While they are incarcerated, the case manager through task provides in-reach services to try to engage with the youth, build relationships, as well as building relationships with the families to work with them together as they return back into the community. So the funding is used for those in-reach services, assessment services, and then planning and coordination services in conjunction with the parole officer assigned to each youth and family. So there is a motion there in the middle of page 22 to accept the allocation from Ohio Mass in the amount of $141,704, and then to allocate that amount to Task of Northwest Ohio for the DYS Aftercare Program for fiscal year '24. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
So moved. Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Any
I
further?
did.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Arnold?
Abstain.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza Locke?
Yes.
Mr. Knowles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Stengel?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Okay, passed. Thank you. Now we'll have the approval of the resolution of necessity, and Scott, behind me, will do that.
Yes, thank you, Reverend. Let me draw your attention to page 25 of your packet. This has been presented to the Executive Nominating Committee and passed. However, the resolution that was presented in your board packet failed to adjust the motion as requested or as approved by the Executive Nominating Committee. The new motion should actually read, the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board of Lucas County approves the need for a new 1 mil levy and requests the Board of Lucas County Commissioners approve placing a new 1 mil levy request on the 2024 primary election ballot for the purpose of operation of mental health programs and alcohol and drug programs by the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board of Lucas County. So we're deleting allowing the 0.5 mil levy to expire on December 31st, 2024. I'll be happy to go into any additional questions or concerns that the board may have. But the motion is on the top of page 26, I believe.
26.
So moved.
Properly moved and second.
Second.
Discussion. All right, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza Locke?
Yes.
Mr. Knowles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Stengel?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes. Okay, Steve, we'll have our ITT Phase 2 update.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. On pages 26 and 27 of your packet is an update on Phase 2 of the Infrastructure Transformation Project, or ITP. On January 17th of this year, board members approved the 2023 to 2025 Mental Health Recovery Services Board Strategic Plan. The strategic plan contains 5 priority areas. Priority area number 1 focuses on organizational development. Area 2, strengthening service delivery. Area 3, equity and action. Area 5, outreach and engagement. I will be speaking today about priority area 4 and provide an update with Ascend Innovations. Priority area 4 focuses on infrastructure. This infrastructure priority is meant to create and maintain systems and processes that allow for improved data management practices and create efficiencies, provide transparency, and support informed decision-making leading to better behavioral health outcomes throughout Lucas County. The strategy designed to help achieve this priority area's goal, Area 4, is Strategy 4.1 from the strategic plan. It is entitled System Processes and Data Management. The strategy aims to execute the existing Infrastructure Transformation Project, ITP. The ITP is a 4-phase organizational enhancement and upgrade effort encompassing the personnel, processes, and technology systems that support the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board and its mission. On June 20th, 2023, Ascend Innovations was awarded the ITP Phase 2 Board Infrastructure Implementation Contract and began its work on the project on July 31st of this year. As a part of the contract, Ascend Innovations will provide ongoing progress updates to the board and staff on ITP Phase 2's progress. With me this afternoon are Josh Gratz and Casey from Ascend Innovations, Casey Smith, who will provide an actual detailed update on where we stand as of now, after about 40 days.
Very good. Thanks, Steve. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. I'm Josh Gratch. I'm the president and CEO of Ascend Innovations. I got Casey Smith here, our senior account and project manager. So you may recall we were here in January of this year when you all approved the strategic plan, debriefing you on phase 1 of the ITP and the recommendations that we put together there that are now culminating into ITP Phase 2 that we are currently executing on. So we wanted to come up here today and give you an update, an overview of ITP Phase 2, where we're at, what we're working on, and ultimately the next steps for the project. Thank you, Phil. So I'll go ahead and, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick overview and update. Again, just as a refresher of what ITP Phase 2 is all about. Give you an update on where we're at today, go over the timeline, the various 5 efforts of the project, and then talk about next steps, and of course answer any questions you all may have. First things first, so like I talked about and as Steve mentioned, the strategic plan was approved on January 7th of this year. And the ITP project is priority area 4 of that. That being said, the ITP project touches all aspects of the strategic plan. So as we think about organizational development, strengthening the service delivery system, equity in action, and outreach engagement, it definitely has involvement in all of those areas as well, in addition to the technological infrastructure. So the overall goal of ITP Phase 2 is to modernize the systems and processes, allowing for better data management practices to create efficiencies, provide transparency both internally and externally, and ultimately support informed decision-making that culminates into what we all care about, which is better behavioral health outcomes. So the work we're going to do under ITP Phase 2 is really going to amplify the ability of the board staff to do their, or provide their role in the community. So key actions that we're looking at here are ensure the breadth of the organization understands the impact that ITP Phase 2 will have on the organization, their roles, the jobs to be done within the organization, et cetera. And so, one thing we're doing out of the gate, as Casey will update you on some of the initial efforts that we've gotten started on, is that we're engaging the board staff in its entirety. So everybody is engaged, everybody is getting feedback, and actively participating in the information that we're collecting on the current state of the processes and systems to help influence where we're going to go with the ideal state. Second key action is determining the best method to provide updates to you all, the Board of Trustees, which is why we're here today. So we've worked with Scott and Steve to determine the cadence to which we'll come up and give you guys bi-monthly updates. So we're here today. We'll be here in November, and then we will be here in January around the slated time that this project is set to be completed. So of course, we'll make sure we keep you all informed on the key milestones, where we're headed, and then debrief at the end on what we've accomplished. Success indicators being staff and board are fully up to date on progress of the project. So again, why we're here today and keeping the team engaged. And as a shout out to the board team, everybody has been very active participants in the initial start of the project. So everybody understands this is an important part of the strategic plan, and we've gotten really good participation and feedback as we've kicked off over the first 8 weeks. And then of course, last thing is phase 2 of ITP is successfully implemented. So with that, I'll hand over to Casey and she'll talk you through the timeline and where we're at, and just giving a brief overview of the efforts of the project.
Great, thank you. Can you guys all hear me okay? Thank you. So I am going to walk through each of the efforts that are depicted on this timeline. We've broken up phase 2 into 5 efforts. So you're going to see the efforts listed down the left-hand side of the page as kind of the row headers, if you will. And then our week timeline is across the top of the page there that you're looking at. And you'll see kind of those benchmarks that we are planning to hit with each of those efforts. It's best to chunk this work out into 5 different efforts so that you guys can kind of understand the full breadth of the work being done as part of phase 2. So as Steve mentioned, we officially kicked off work July 31st, and we're slated to wrap phase 2 of ITP in January of 2024. And with the first effort there, so the first bar across the top of the timeline, this is the infrastructure setup, implementation, training of staff on the new infrastructure, and then ongoing monitoring of those new technology and infrastructure systems that have been put into place. This phase, or this effort of the phase, encompasses all the work associated with the infrastructure overhaul. So when you're thinking about acquiring the new physical hardware and technology systems and moving all of the data and documentation into a distributed cloud-based environment, that work is happening in this first effort. We are continuing to finalize plans for what that new technology infrastructure is going to be for the board, including evaluating their new office space that they'll be moving to at some point in the new year to make sure that the technology that we're implementing with the board makes sense to meet the future needs of the space the board will be inhabiting. When we look at effort 2, that effort is titled Current State Data Map and Data Migration. This effort is really focused on understanding all of the data that lives within the board's purview. So what we're doing in this effort is garnering an understanding of where data is coming from, where it's being stored, and who owns that data and how it's being used within the board, to make sure we have a good baseline of what data exists and can potentially be harnessed in the future. So we've been working with the internal technology, strategic planning, and quality team to map out the entire data landscape of the board. We've got a massive map creative that we're working on now to validate where it's coming from, what tools are being used, who the consumers of that data is, to make sure that our baseline understanding of all data is robust. And that map will be vital to success as we continue to move the board to that distributed cloud-based environment and understanding what data needs to be actively available versus what should be archived. The third effort there is titled Future State Data Flow Mapping. This work has not yet kicked off, as you'll see on the timeline, and is slated to kick off in the next month or so. And this work is where we're going to look at the future state of data for the board, and done as part of this effort to really inform on future data strategy and future ITP phases. So what data is needed to support the board's mission long term and beyond phase 2 of the ITP. What data is needed for the board to have to be what they would like in long-term vision to serve as a regional data hub. So this is going to look a little outward and beyond the board walls to help, again, inform future phases. The fourth effort there is business process reengineering, and where we've really been in the weeds over the last month or so with board staff. Given that there is new technology and data infrastructure coming soon for the board, documentation of current board processes is vital to success of rolling out that new technology and infrastructure. And so it's vital for us to understand where technology could improve or make more efficient processes. And so the goal here is that we are modernizing those business processes in alignment with the new technology and infrastructure that is being rolled out for the board. So over the last month, as Josh mentioned, we've been working with each department and all of the staff within those departments to thoroughly map out all critical business processes, understanding who's involved in those steps, what steps are taken, what data is needed, what are those pain points the staff are experiencing, or opportunities to make a process more efficient as we walk through, again, the ticky-tacky, step-by-step involved in the processes. And so we want to make sure that we have that baseline of operations to ensure whatever solutions are being proposed are facilitating more efficient workflows long-term and really solving for those identified pain points from staff. And then the fifth effort there at the bottom of your timeline you'll see is data governance and management. So for those that are unfamiliar with what data governance is, it's essentially going to be those internal standards and policies that apply to how data is being gathered, stored, processed, who owns that data within the board, and how it's disposed of, really again assigning that responsibility and shared accountability of the data within the organization. And so here we are focusing on supporting the board as they develop a data governance and management strategy. And we actually kicked this work off today with some directors, and we'll continue to work on that with board staff tomorrow during some on-site work sessions to ensure that the frameworks needed to successfully manage the board's data long-term are in place. So if you go to the next slide, these are just some of our next steps that are upcoming, so you all are aware of kind of where we're at currently, what's due to the board here soon, and what we're tracking towards. Our team, Ascend, came on site today and facilitated some working sessions, and we'll be on site with staff tomorrow, continuing to facilitate sessions related to ideal state. So we've currently mapped current state of all their business processes, and now we're starting to get into that kind of dreaming and wish listing of what solutions and how could technology make those processes more efficient and solve for those pain points that have been identified. We're going to continue diving into data governance and that kind of shared ownership and accountability structure for data within the organization. And then we'll also be touring the new building just to understand what that layout is in terms of informing our technology solutions. By the end of September, a few things will be delivered to the board. We will have a draft data map completed, which we're tracking towards currently, along with the final current state processes. Those are broken out per department. So we've been working on, again, validating all of those current state processes with each of the departments within the board. And then as it relates to data governance, we will have a readiness assessment of where the board stands with implementing a data governance strategy, along with how the board would like to define what data governance looks like for the organization. By the end of October, we will be delivering software and platform recommendations to the board related to those technology and software tools that could streamline workflows and really make work more efficient, and again, harnessing that new technology-based, cloud-based environment. And then we will be back in November, as Josh mentioned, to provide the board with updates on where we're at in terms of progress with each of the efforts I just spoke to. And then obviously ongoing, we are meeting with the internal champions of the ITP work here at the board on a weekly basis. Every Monday we're meeting to discuss project updates, talk about what meetings need planned, what work sessions are coming up, and then we will continue to come on site as the needs arise. So with that, those are all the updates we have, and we're happy to field any questions.
Have there been any major hiccups along the way, and do you foresee any into the future with the move, especially? I guess is my, well, you probably can't answer that until after tomorrow, but.
No major hiccups to date. The news of moving into the new space came after we got on contract and started the project, but it's actually helping facilitate the modernization efforts, right? As we think about the technology and infrastructure that we want to put in place, we are now building to that newer office building, and so it hasn't been an impediment whatsoever. It's actually kind of helped us think forward of where we want the ITP project to go.
Any other questions?
Hey, Sana, this is Scott. Also, with the move to the new space, it's brought in a conversation with the Lucas County Information Systems and what their role is in technology and the platforms that are part of the County Data Processing Board. So those conversations are evolving, but we may end up coming back to you all in the future and talking to you a little bit more in depth about some of the issues that have developed.
Okay, all right.
So Scott, we can anticipate new issues because of the cost, or? Did you hear me?
I'm sorry, yeah, you said are the issues because of the cost? No, it's, the issues are relative to what are the roles and responsibilities of the Lucas County Data Processing and Lucas County Information Systems Department.
Okay.
Can you remind us what's left for phase 3? What are we going to be doing in phase 3, Steve?
Phase 3 is a discovery.
I'm having issues with the sound, so I'm sorry.
My question for Steve was what's left for phase 3? You can't hear? Guess we need some new technology.
Imagine
I got nothing out of that, I'm sorry, guys.
We all did. This was on cue. He actually, phase 1 was an internal discovery, looking at our internal operations, technology, etc. Phase 2 is an implementation of those upgrades. Phase 3 is a discovery countywide of our system of care and the technology that supports it. Phase 4 is an implementation along the countywide system of care, along with, we've talked regional data hub and where that all fits in.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there other questions? All right, thank you so much. I want to thank the board for working with you and doing such a magnificent job. I think this is a necessary step. It's been a long process, and hopefully we're going to accomplish that. Thank you so much. All right, we need to move the open session up before the executive session, following your approval to adjourn into executive session. So with that, can we have opening session now beginning with, yes, that's
Just a couple of things. Interesting case at Plan Commission last week. There is an organization called Building Futures. They work with children that have behavioral problems and provide programming for them. They want to move into the building at 3166 Gill Avenue. That's directly across from the Pepsi Cola bottling place. It's zone light industrial. They didn't ask for a zoning change. They just asked if it could be used as community recreation active, whatever that is. It didn't go over well. They were hit with about 35 different stipulations, most of which they couldn't possibly afford. The Plan Commission was very, very polite to them and said, we understand what you're trying to do, but there's just no way we can improve this. So they are to meet with the staff of Plan Commission. Oh, and if not, ask for a zoning change, then come up with some other category, but they want to deliver case management and counseling services to students that have behavioral problems, and that's the best place they can do it. I'll keep you updated on that. This was back in July. This board didn't have you. The county commissioners have contracted with M.J. Martin in Lincoln, Nebraska. They're going to pay him $100,000 to come in and train our sheriffs on the new jail, and it's called Strategic Inmate Management. As I read it, it's just this utopian facility where nobody's in a jail cell. They're all in housing units. I mean, that makes it clear. These are housed in jail, not incarcerated, but housed, and all the services. This is all very familiar. It's exactly what was proposed in the 1970s. I still have all of the articles. If you recall, the 70s, great fanfare, and it became a government. People with mental illness and substance use were just dumped there. They weren't charged with anything, they just lived there. And in 1989, the federal government stepped in and issued a court order. You cannot do that to people with a violation of civil rights. And I'm a big believer in that old saying, those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. So my message for this board, as you put your levy on ballot next year, I know some of those dollars will go into the jail to provide some badly needed services. But remember, as far as the jail, let the county commissioners talk about this. They've been doing it for years and they're good at it. This board, when you approach the public, you need to talk about finding that balance between prevention and intervention. Once they're in jail, that's intervention. They deteriorated, they hurt somebody, they committed a crime. That's intervention. This board needs to make it clear to the public it funds a number of services that keep people from going out and committing crimes and ending up in jail. So you've got to find that right balance between prevention and intervention. That I believe that should be the thrust of your levy. Because everybody's been talking about the jail for quite some time now. And indulge me as I just tell you one of my all-time favorite stories. Tomorrow, September the 20th, is the 65th anniversary of a historical event that should never be forgotten. That was when Dr. Martin Luther King was in Harlem signing copies of his book. A woman with a long history of mental illness named Isola Ware Curry walked up to him and said, "Are you Dr. King?" He said, "Yes." She pulled out a knife and stabbed him in the chest. He came as close to dying as a human being can. The blade penetrated the outer layer of the aorta, stopping just short of the inner layer. His doctors told him, if he'd sneezed on the way to the emergency room, you would have died. It would have ripped over your aorta, you would have bled it out, and nothing could have stopped it. He spoke about this in his mountaintop speech. While Dr. King was being treated for his life-threatening injuries, he was asking if the woman that stabbed him was okay. He was concerned with her welfare. He never pressed any charges. He prayed for her to get well. She didn't. She went into a psychiatric hospital. This was in 1958. Back in the 50s, if you went to a psychiatric hospital, you didn't come out. She spent the rest of her life and died here. But this incredible act of forgiveness, I think it's important to remember for two reasons. One, today, nobody wants to forgive anybody for anything anymore. And two, this is the reason that boards like this were created. Because if mentally ill people get the help they need early on, then they don't go out and stab people and they can lead productive lives. So tomorrow is the 60th anniversary of that. Is my big deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Appreciate you giving that, Richard. You gave something about compassion. That's something that we need. We all need that. Sitting in these chairs and providing the information that we're getting and the services that we provide. We all need compassion throughout the course of our day to provide it to the individuals that we serve. We respect. Of course, we respect. Because if we don't have that humanitarianism or that respect or even that compassion, we'll continue to see people out there being locked away with no hope for a future. So thank you for
And
that.
remember back in the 1950s, nobody understood mental illness. It's just incredible that he forgave this woman and never pressed any charges.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Richard. Anyone else? All right, then we will receive a motion to adjourn into
So moved.
executive session.
Second.
That's a pending legal matter. It has been moved and seconded. Shall we have the roll call vote?
Mr. Arnold?
Abstain?
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza-Locke?
Yes.
Mr. Knowles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Stengel?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
All right, it is approved, and we are now adjourned into executive session. Are you ready?
All right.
All right.
We're recording.
What is your pleasure?
I move that we come out of executive session.
The second, moved and second to come out of executive session. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And those who abstain. We are now adjourned.
Roll call.
She can't do
But I
it.
didn't.